Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach and the SuperCoach press conference. Making a little bit of a habit out of these late night press conferences on the Sunday night, but this will probably be coming to you at some stage on Monday, mid-morning, afternoon, depending what I decide. But didn't lock out, or unlock I should say. The full lockout for SuperCoach lasted maybe a little bit longer than normal. But nonetheless, I'll get stuck in to my side. Of course, hopefully you're following the golf as well. I'm getting around Adam Scott. I'll probably get up and watch a bit of that this morning, but we're talking SuperCoach today. So how did we go? 2,148, and probably my most pleasing week so far. Whether that's a positive or a negative, I'll let you decide. But look, we haven't hit any great heights at this stage, but I felt a bit more positive about this week than previous ones. Of course, ranked in the top 23%. Seems to be about where my side is at the moment. It's around that 20% mark. I came in another 12 or 13,000 positions, so making a little bit of ground. Obviously, after that first week, which was a very poor week, since then I've just been average. Nothing fantastic. Of course, that first week, a shocking captain, a couple of really poor decisions, or two poor decisions if you recall, and it cost me. Since then, I've probably just had an average team. I've been hitting pars. I've yet to make a birdie, but at this stage, we're probably on par after that initial bogey in round one. So there's the stats. Anyway, moving into the side, of course, we'll start with the back line as normal. I might just zoom in a little bit. So yeah, the back line was reasonable. Adams is doing fantastically well, averaging beautifully. Midfield numbers, which is what we expected. Led since round one, where he dominated with 40-odd touches, hasn't quite reproduced that, but he's been consistent nonetheless, and I think he is the sort of player who's not going to bomb out too often, but will often produce you 80 to 110. Otten has been a revelation. He's been fantastic. Will make us plenty of cash. Did not anticipate good scores at all. I thought he'd be probably a 70 average sort of bloke, and it'll make you some money, but all of a sudden he's scoring really nice points, so that's a nice surprise. Hampton, his top scorer of the season, which we'd like to think he's now building towards more of what we probably expect from him, and I think he'll be a very good selection for us. Of course, went up about 40,000, 50,000 there, so I think we can be pretty confident in his selection at this stage. But the two Geelong boys are probably the main letdowns in defence, and probably the main and only concerns in my side currently. Tui, I'm really at odds with where he sits, not only in my side, but just scoring in general. He's obviously playing a more offensive role, but just not getting as much of the ball as I had expected. So he's probably a watch for me. Started well week one, was okay week two without scoring well, and then week three wasn't impressive at all. So we just really need to get more effective kicks from him. I thought he'd be a bit of a Jake Lloyd type. A lot of people did toss up between he and Lloyd, and at the moment Lloyd is certainly the man taking the honours there. So I'll wait and see on Tui. But Tom Stewart, if he doesn't leave our side soon, he may leave the Cats side even sooner. He's probably really on the chopping block from a Geelong point of view this week. Taylor playing forward will probably come to an end. Seems inevitable, whether it's this week or next week. The flow-on effect of that is that Taylor will make us far too tall in defence, and probably Stewart or Thurlow will be the man who is dropped. So watch this space. Not only is he scoring poorly, but I think his job security is quite poor and under a lot of pressure. So, and then Smith and Hibbert on the bench obviously didn't play, but of course we saw a few of those Swans youngsters playing some good footy, and I think a couple of guys in the back line are offering us some options for cash cows, and they'll obviously make way sooner than later. In my midfield, all my premiums turned up, which was the first for the season, but none went huge. I thought Fife probably deserved more than 113, just watching a reasonable part of the game. I thought particularly that last quarter could have been worth a lot more, but Tommy Rockcliffe, Tom Mitchell, Dane Beams, Adam Treloar, Dan Hanbury, all in between 103 and 112. So consistent, and look, I'll take it. I mean, I'm not complaining with that. I mean, your par and your standard for a premium is 100, And in the midfield, you always hope that maybe one of them bumps out at 140, 150. So certainly they tick the box on getting a ton. And I was proud of Hanbury in particular. A lot of people would have traded him, and he played a really good game. He was one of the Swans' best players and played the exact role that we expect him to do and produced really good numbers. So that's what we expect, and I think he'll be back in business. Sammy Powell-Pepper didn't set the world on fire, but everyone's got him. He's doing a job, and if he doesn't score well this week, good score's not far around the corner. Both Parfitt and Barrett scored really good points for me. As you know, last week I went with Parfitt, scored 36. Barrett on the bench, I left there, scored 50. A real toss of the coin again. I ended up going Barrett. And look, they both paid off. Obviously, watching Parfitt tear it up for the Cats on Saturday, I was thinking, oh, geez, I should have gone Parfitt. You know, the age-old thing of a flip of a coin rookie, and you always pick the one who scores 30. Does your head in. But Barrett tackled really well. I think he had 9 tackles and got involved a bit with the play. So it's a win-win when rookies can do that, because they score your points, but they also do their chances of holding their spot in the side, which therefore makes you money. They do that the world of good. So great to see. Midfield overall, I was pretty happy with. You take that. Jared Pickett, he's probably just your 30 to 40 sort of guy. And I think we forecast that at the start of the season. We did say that he's the sort of bloke who will go missing. And I think we probably expect him to bob up and kick a few goals at some point. Hopefully he's not dropped. There could be a potential, but we'll wait and see. Ruck division was good. Brodie Grundy, plenty of the ball, plenty of hit-outs, and plenty of contested ball as well. He did well. Aaron Sandilands, your sort of Sandilands numbers that we expect. You had 14, 15 touches, a lot of contested possessions, a lot of good hit-outs as well. Tick the box there, and so far he's proving to be a really good selection, which is great, making us money while averaging around 90 odd. So, and I guess as I move towards this bottom section of my side, you'll probably notice the 2 changes, which were, of course, Strandicker out for Bruce, which I ummed a little bit, because I must say I questioned how well Bruce would score with Goldstein back in the team, but it did seem like he shouldered not a majority, but certainly 50-50 of hit-outs or anything to go by, and Bruce is seemingly going to be given all the opportunity in the world to develop and fast-track his ability. So 87 points, made us 70-odd K, and is looking really good there. And the other trade was Shawnee Higgins came in for Josh Caddy. It didn't reap huge benefits on this occasion. Saved me 23 points. Caddy scored, I think it was 35, which is deplorable. Hasn't been good, Caddy, but been much worse than I anticipated. Higgins will be better. You know, disappointing when a bloke scores 130 and then you trade him in and he scores below 60. It's a little frustrating, but Higgins is for the long term, and I think he'll still be a top 6 to 8 forward, and he made me a bit of coin, so happy to do so. Nankervis keeps getting the job done. Dalhouse was fantastic. He's just, as I've said every week, Dalhouse does what he does. Lock him in, don't worry about him. McRae also doing very nicely, averaging about where we probably expected. Jared Roughhead, 99 points in what was a disgraceful day for the Hawthorn Football Club. Of course, they've had a fantastic run of success, but this was one of their darkest days for many years. But the captain obviously stood up, kicked a few goals, 99 points. So you wouldn't envision too many poorer games than that from the Hawks. And I think Roughhead will probably be a reasonable selection. I can still feel like he can go a bit beyond that, but I feel like his 90 to 110 is probably where we see him fluctuating. So I'll keep the faith with him there. And Butler is producing really good numbers for a rookie, so making us plenty of cash. Hannon and Eddie, 2 blokes that are definitely struggling to score points on a regular basis, and probably 2 guys that we aren't sure on their job security. So there's a potential there that if one of them were to be dropped, you may trade in one of those Sydney guys. I keep getting confused at which ones are classified in which part of the ground. So let's have a quick look, because Robbie Fox was reasonable. He's in the midfield. He's probably the one that's got the least amount of job security. So Will Hayward's probably the man, isn't he? Looked the most impressive, and he's in the forward line. So he's probably a guy that also could be offloaded. And obviously Newman's the defender, which I already knew. But so plenty of Swans guys popping their heads up. And if you watch my last podcast, the one prior, I do discuss a fair bit of the rookies that are coming in and worth keeping an eye on. So there might be a bit of a rearrangement of cash cow options too. So, gee, that's testing the eyes out, isn't it? Anyway, there's my team. So that's the team. That's what we've produced. A more of an even spread of scores. There were no standouts. Of course, the top score was Dalhouse, which is largely irrelevant because everyone has him. Next best score was Adams. Same said, he's probably in 35% of teams at least. So I probably didn't have many guys that were a little more unique that scored anything fantastic. But an even week nonetheless. A lot of guys going beyond 90, which at this stage of the season is always nice to see. Of course, I've still got the 340 odd K there in the bank. I will look to pull the trigger pretty soon. Of course, Heath Shaw is dropping a little bit. Gawn would have hurt a lot of people. That would have really hurt a lot of people. Nick Rewald, who would have thought he'd come back after 1 week? And who would have thought that he'd be in such good a nick to pump out a 160? So unbelievable stuff there. He's certainly a bloke that we'll be looking to get in our sides very soon. Certainly leave a comment on how your side went. I'll endeavour to get round to those probably later in the week, I would say. Of course, we've got a Thursday night game coming up this week, so I'll look to probably have a podcast on the Wednesday or the Thursday, probably maybe even the Friday, because it's probably better to get a look at the most part of the teams. And West Coast and St Kilda don't really have a stack. Or it's West Coast and Sydney, isn't it? Sorry. Still, I think it's probably better to get a podcast going when you know the majority of the sides. So that's how my team shaped up. There's certainly some pros and cons. We're certainly not breaking any records, but there is potential there. I feel with that 300k in the bank, some correctional trades or at least upgrades can be made, and I'm fairly comfortable with this squad. I think there's a few guys that will make me good money. Parford is certainly the biggest thing to come out of the weekend. Otten has cemented himself. Butler. It's good to see a few guys that you can bank on as cash cows, and I'll bring a few more in this week. So thanks for tuning in once more. Thanks for getting on board as a subscriber as well. Quite a few coming on board. I say it regularly, but I do appreciate you guys getting involved. So hopefully Adam Scott can win the Masters tomorrow. He's not far off the pace, so I'll probably be watching that in about 6 or 7 hours. So stay tuned for plenty of SuperCoach stuff as well. We'll, of course, have a podcast later in the week, previewing the week, and then I'll be back for the press conference on the following, probably Monday night or Tuesday, after the Geelong Hawthorn Easter Monday clash. So thanks for tuning in, guys. No doubt I'll catch you soon. All the best.